Hi, I'm C.M. Vazquez, author of the Birdcage Society Falling, an ongoing psychological mystery series. Welcome to Read With Me, book club style. Now, this is a book club where I will be reading standalone novels and series, reading them chapter by chapter and discussing them in that way as well. I'm going to be reading Darkly Dreaming Dexter by Lindsay, the first book in the Dexter series. If you haven't watched my introduction video to the book club, please go and watch that because this is not review videos. It is a book club talking about my impressions of these chapters, so there will be spoilers. If you haven't read it, please go ahead and read along with me and give me your impressions in the comments. If you have read it, give me your impressions as well, and we'll have fun with it. So the first book, Darkly Dreaming Dexter, I went ahead and read the first chapter, and here's my impressions on it. It starts off with a rather poetic description of the moon and its call to the dark part of Dexter. He refers to this dark part of himself as the need and the part of himself that hungers. I think that this is a wonderful start to the book, not only to the book itself, but to the series, because we're being introduced to the part of Dexter that drives him, and the part that he appears to be at odds with right off the bat. He also refers to it as the me that is not me. So right away, there's this conflict going on inside the MMC. And if you're not familiar with that term, MMC means male main character. So this part of himself that he is at odds with, for me, kind of gives a little bit of foreshadowing for the rest of the book, or even parts of the series where he is going to continue to be at odds with this part of himself, or it might get better. But I think there might come a point in the series where he tries to stop. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But that was the very first page of the chapter, basically just introducing him. And then on the next page, he refers to this need. He gives it a name. He calls it the dark passenger. And that's actually the term that I'm most familiar with, having read the TV show Dexter, having watched the TV show Dexter. I'm familiar with him referring to it as the dark passenger. And right away you get that this character is meticulous. When he sets up his kill areas, everything is done properly. Everything is clean, everything is checked and rechecked, and he actually refers to this as the Harry way, or Harry right. And this is actually because this was a protocol that was taught to him by his policeman foster father, and why he's evaded being caught for so long, because this is the method that he sticks to. So and I'm trying not to let what I know from the TV show interfere with me consuming this book and the impressions that I get from it. But there may be times when I can't help myself. I'll try not to give away spoilers for the TV show, because I do expect that the series is going to deviate. Not that the series is going to deviate, but that the TV show deviated from the series quite a bit. So in assuming that, I don't want to give away too many spoilers for the show, because that's not what this is about. It's about reading the books. So hopefully that doesn't happen too much, but I may reference certain things from the show from time to time. Let's see here. So later on in the chapter, it also comes to light that even though Dexter is meticulous, he still has the potential to make mistakes. When the dark passenger takes over, he describes it as kind of a tunnel vision that takes over as well. He is saved by luck, basically, and he does refer to it as being luck that saves him. For example, when he is following his victim in the first chapter, his victim is a priest, so The setting is outside of a church on some church steps. The priest is sitting on these steps, and he describes an interaction where a child comes out of the church and has a conversation with him and then goes back in. So he's kind of waiting for his moment to take the priest. And right when he's about to make his move on the priest, a man actually steps out from the corner of the building with a lit cigarette and strikes up a conversation with the priest. And Dexter describes Luck as being the one that interfered here because he had no idea that this man was there. He was completely focused on the priest and what the priest was doing. He actually says, quote, "Always Luck these nights," as if this is a common occurrence for him to be saved by Luck. I would also like to point out that the author, Jeff Lindsay, has chosen to capitalize a few unexpected words, one being need, luck, and night. So he's chosen to give these words a kind of personification. The need that Dexter refers to, of course, is his hunger, and Luck being the entity that's always present when he's stalking his prey, and night, which seems to be all-encompassing. So need, luck, and night, to me, feel like the holy trinity to Dexter's Dark Passenger, which, you know, is absolutely wonderful. I love that I caught on to the fact that these words were capitalized, because I think it's very fitting. It's very telling for the character and how he sets everything up in the way that he views going after these victims. I do wonder, though, given the setting and what Dexter is describing going on with the priest and the man that stepped out from the corner, where is Dexter? What is his location? That's not described at all until the moment that Dexter makes his move on his victim. And I appreciated that because where he is, I found a little bit comical. But it turns out that Dexter's location is actually inside the priest's car. He's in the back seat of this man's car, just waiting for him to get inside so he can make his move. And I think thinking about it from a humorous perspective is, what would have happened if he just popped up from the back seat while this man is talking to the priest? He was going to make his moment. He's like, oh, wait. And then he gets caught. So the very first chapter in the Dexter series, just Dexter's made, you know? So I thought that was funny. But I do like the fact that the author chose to keep it hidden. I think that's a really fun additive. I did assume that Dexter was watching the priest from one of the corners of the building, just kind of peeking his head out and watching, but that's really cool. In the backseat, though, Dexter is wearing a mask of sorts. He's wearing this white silk mask over his head, and I didn't expect that. I expected him to just be uncovered completely, maybe just dressed in dark clothing, maybe a hat on of some kind. I wasn't expecting him to be fully masked. To me, this gives the impression that the character isn't confident in his ability to not be seen. And I don't know how far along this is from when his father taught him, so how long he's actually been killing people, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna go on this journey, and we're gonna see. Hopefully a timeline comes up. So he's wearing this mask sitting in the back seat, and one more thing about the mask. I do wonder if it is part of the Harry way, if he's the one who taught him to wear a mask, or if that's just something that Dexter decided to do, although it would make sense that he was told to wear a mask. And of course, we know from having read the back of the book. Actually, you know what? I'm not quite sure if I did read you the back of the book, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. Meet Dexter Morgan, polite wolf in sheep's clothing. He's handsome and charming, but something in his past has made him abide by a different set of rules. He's a serial killer whose one golden rule makes him immensely likable. He only kills bad people. His job as a blood spatter expert for the Miami Police Department puts him in the perfect position to identify his victims. But when a series of brutal murders bearing a striking similarity to his own style turns up, Dexter is caught between being flattered and being frightened of himself or some other fiend. So, knowing about Dexter's MO, to basically only allow his dark passenger to kill bad people, at this point in the chapter, I'm wondering what this priest has done to deserve becoming Dexter's victim. And I have thought that it would be the stereotypical things that usually go on with priests that have to do with children. I'm hoping that that's not the case, but we're going to find out. Now, I'm not going to be disappointed if it does turn out to be kids with the priest. I just think it's a little bit cliched. So we'll see. So further along in the chapter, Dexter has the priest drive out to an abandoned house along a dirt road. And he is controlling the priest by a rope that he tightens around the priest's neck. When they arrive to the house, the priest's eyes keep straying to a vegetable garden with mounds of dirt, basically oblong mountains of dirt. And I'm over here reading this book, eyes glued to the pages, thinking, oh crap, what's buried in the vegetable garden? And do I want to know? And of course I do. I love these kinds of stories. But is it kids? So we're going to find out. I think that Jeff Lindsay, the author, is doing a good job of letting the reader in on the victim's thoughts without coming right out and saying it. It's obvious that this priest knows why they're at this particular location. He was visibly nervous at the turnoff from the main road onto the dirt road leading to the abandoned building. And because his eyes keep going back to the mounds of dirt in the garden, I think that it gives the impression of nervousness, right? He was also very nervous at the turnoff to the street. He even closes his eyes right before Dexter shoves him into the abandoned building and keeps them shut until Dexter basically tightens the rope and forces him to open his eyes. There's shame and fear present in this man without Jeff Lindsay needing to say the words, without needing to write them out. And, I love a good show don't tell. It's really refreshing to see. And I love getting an impression of a character's emotions and thoughts without it being stated outright. And so, after a few violent threats from Dexter and some tightening of that rope, the priest finally opens his eyes. Only to find that Dexter has already dug up what was in that vegetable garden and arranged them inside the abandoned building for the priest to see. Now, these corpses are very small. You know what that means. So I do like that this Dexter has made the priest come face to face with what he's done right before his own inevitable demise. Although the bodies ended up being exactly what I didn't want them to be, I still enjoyed the fact that he dug them up to show him. Dexter in the series does show his kills to, or not Dexter's kills, but he shows the victims their kills right before he kills them, kind of to basically be like, here's what you've done and this is why you deserve this. But he does it in a different way. There's a different method to it in the show. I like this method. I'm definitely for this method in particular. The priest actually says to Dexter at some point that he couldn't help himself, and Dexter tells him that he actually can't help himself either. But Dexter sets himself apart from this man and his victims. Even though there are parallels between the two, he is actually disgusted with the priest because Dexter would never do this to children. And I think because he was taught by his foster father to set himself apart, it kind of allows him as a serial killer to justify it. And, you know, I mean, what can I say? I like villains who have codes and strict guidelines. And I do see him as a villain, even if it's only from the perspective of bad people. I enjoy this particular brand of justice from fictional characters. I think a lot of other people do as well. Take any vigilante, you know, even the heroes who refuse to kill. It's all about taking justice into your own hands. And some justice is just more brutal than others. So, you know, if you agree with Dexter's particular brand of justice, put a red heart in the comments, you know? Let me know if you agree with me as well. So chapter 1 ends with the priest unconscious after Dexter inserts a syringe into his neck and then duct tapes him to a table. This room that he duct tapes him to the table in, he has covered in white plastic for easy cleanup after the deed is done. And when the priest comes to, there's kind of this resigned look on the priest's face, which Dexter mentions happens a lot with his victims, like they've accepted their fate. And he whispers something to Dexter that Dexter actually has to get down close to him to hear. And Dexter's response to him is, "You're welcome." Now, of course, we're meant to infer at this point that the priest said thank you. But I like that the author chose not to write it. I think it grabs the mind of the reader and makes us an active participant, even with something so simple. And I really enjoyed that. I like it when the author makes the reader think, even with small things. I think that it contributes to the overall experience of the story. And I think that chapter 1, it was fitting. It was a good chapter as an introduction to not only the first book, but the series as a whole, because it's not describing Dexter specifically, it's describing his dark passenger. And since Dexter already sets himself apart from his dark passenger, I think it's a good introduction because we really get a sense of this part of him that drives the entire series and that drives him. And although he seems to be at odds with it, I think we're going to find out more, not only about this dark passenger, but we're going to find out more about who Dexter is outside of this dark force that drives him. So, join me next time with my thoughts on chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it this time. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments, and see you next time.